Heston, you're a former Special Forces commando and were also the subject of negative national headlines on the ABC, coverage the public broadcaster's own Media Watch program criticised.
Fifth-generation veteran Heston Russell believes the legacy from his platoon's time in Afghanistan is ruined.
This online investigation by Gold Walkley winner Mark Willesee did not name Russell, but did identify him and did accuse him of being involved in killing an unarmed prisoner in Afghanistan in 2012. The ABC relying on an ex-US Marine who featured in Willesee's accompanying TV report.
So it was pretty apparent to everybody involved in that mission that they had just killed a prisoner, that we had just watched them like catch and hog tie.
The key problem is that the ABC had only one witness to the alleged killing, and he did not actually see the prisoner being shot. And while other members of the US helicopter crew supposedly heard what he heard and reached the same conclusion, the ABC had none of them to back him up. Should the ABC have asked more questions and found more support for the allegation before publishing? The answer is yes.
In 2020 and 2021, the ABC published reports saying you deliberately broke the rules of war and had been involved in shooting and killing an Afghan prisoner. Heston, how did you feel when you first saw the story?
It was a surreal day. The first day the ABC published their article in October 2020 was the 8th year anniversary of the death of the only soldier I lost in Afghanistan. And that evening as a platoon we were getting together at the North Bondi RSL to have dinner with his mother, who we hadn't seen since the first year when we got back. And I woke up to my phone on vibrator going off with messages from my guys seeing this article that had named November Platoon, and that's 40 guys. That's 40 guys of the only ever November Platoon named in the military at that time, and I was the commander of that platoon. And I sort of sat there waiting for someone from the Department of Defence to call, someone to call and explain what was going on. It was during COVID, alone in my apartment in Sydney, and I just felt like the world was absolutely caving in around me and didn't know where to turn.
What were the implications of those reports for you?
Our entire career within Special Forces is out of the public eye. We're not allowed to have social media accounts in our names. We don't wear our uniforms in public. We're not allowed to tell people what we do. So that period of my life is only sort of known to my families and friends. And straight away, the only legacy, the only public legacy of my soldiers who deployed Afghanistan, performed amazingly, and we lost Corporal Scott Smith over there, was this allegation that we were all war criminals. And I just could not let that be the legacy that was going to be of my soldiers, of me, and of the soldiers that we lost in Afghanistan.
What did you decide to do in response?
So I straight away got online, Googled, called the ABC. I called, left a message, and then I started calling around some of my people that I knew within the Defence Force to see what was going on, and got no response. And in an emotive state, I decided to get on my Instagram and just speak out against the story and say, hey, look, I am the November Platoon commander. Before doing that, I actually called my mother and my sister and said, hey, I have to speak out about this because we're seeing Scott's family tonight. And I say that because we have something called protected identity status within the Special Forces that is there to protect us and our families from things like reprisal attacks and all the rest. And by speaking out, I was identifying myself as someone who'd been in Afghanistan, killed insurgents, and could potentially bring harm to myself or my family. So I took to my social media and I said that this is wrong, and I asked people to help me to get in contact with the ABC or anyone in the media to help correct this, and someone ended up putting me in contact with someone from the Channel 10 project, and I went on and did an interview with Peter Van Onselen.
In terms of the ABC, did you hear back from them?
Nothing. Not a single response.
What did you decide to do next?
I sued them for defamation.
Heston, you sued the ABC for defamation after it alleged that you'd been involved in the killing of an Afghan prisoner. What was the outcome of that case?
Yeah, so it was the first ever public interest defamation case when it went to the federal court, and in October last year, Justice Lee found the ABC and the two individual journalists responsible for the articles, Mark Willesee and Josh Robertson, had been irresponsible in their reporting, and found victory in my favour as far as defamation.
Were you awarded any money?
Yeah, I was awarded just over $400,000 in damages, and for my legal cost to be paid.
Was the money enough?
No, absolutely not. And even going to court wasn't it. So the court case was the end of me taking every democratic step available to me. Myself and my soldiers got together and wrote a 10-page letter to the ABC explaining how impossible their story was and simply requesting for them to take down the article and to apologise. We raised a parliamentary petition that gained 26,000 signatures in 30 days, asking for an independent review of that article, and the Minister didn't respond for 18 months later. We wrote and did 2 editorial complaints to the ABC, and instead they doubled down, and finally when they doubled down, they overstepped the mark, and a friend referred me to a defamation lawyer who, again, I could not, as a private person, afford to sue the ABC for defamation. And instead, Sue Chrysanthe and Rebecca Giles took on my case at no win, no fee. I couldn't literally afford the cost of justice to clear my soldiers. At the end of the day, it's been about clearing my platoon's name and looking for an apology, and we're still yet to receive that apology from the ABC.
The ABC's managing director told Senate estimates that he will not apologise to you. I just want to raise something of what Justice Lee said, Heston, that you had embraced the public controversy and used it to further your personal causes and your profile. Did you seek support from any other media outlets?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate to have the support of Ben Fordham and the team from 2GB.
And Ben Fordham hosts one of Sydney's highest rating radio shows. You had his support?
Had his support, and particularly during the trial, Ben did amazing things like actually get the raw transcripts of the interviews that Mark Willesee had with this Marine who alleged that he heard a pop, with the USA DEA commander who they alleged said he wouldn't work with me, and played the footage and showed that this journalist had cut that footage and put it together to suit his agenda. Ben reached out to and did an interview with the USA DEA commander who said he was so disgusted and found his time serving with us to be the highlight of his life. I was so privileged to have Ben and his team fighting back, because when I commenced those legal proceedings, the platform of my social media and me speaking out was taken away, and it was a really, really dark time.
Did you have any other friends in the media, or did you find that once there was uncertainty around your name, they disappeared?
The phones went dry, and the people that I reached out to, even to try and help me raise funds for the campaign, for the court case, went dry. It was probably one of the most lonely and isolating periods of my life. Particularly for me, it was very interesting where, as some of the evidence started to come out and people really started to see how shocking the ABC had got this wrong, the tide sort of turned at a point in the media, and you saw the ABC's own Media Watch even reported on them, and it was this individual who was continuously referenced to have won a gold Walkley and was looking to be on the cutting edge of putting this story out to see what would come back, similar to what would happen in the Ben Roberts-Smith case. And myself and my soldiers were the bait for him to try and win an award. And when we proved that they were so wrong, that their allegation even included a period of time that we weren't even in Afghanistan, they refused to apologise to me and my soldiers for what they put us through.
So without the support of one media outlet, where do you think you'd be now?
I would like to hope that the judge's decision would have then enabled me to speak out again. But from a personal level, Ben Fordham and his team provided such a massive lifeline to me and to my family. Having Ben and his team publish the truth that was coming out was a lifeline and really helped us sort of stay together.
Peter, you're a defamation lawyer. Have you ever leveraged the media to help your cases?
Well, it's vexed and not without risk. Of course, finding a friendly and faithful journalist who's going to fairly report your client's case and do it in a manner that you're satisfied with is one thing and can be useful. But on the other hand, as matters approach litigation, and bearing in mind, as a lawyer, you're advising your client, you're not necessarily across the truth of the matter, and you are aware that there is upcoming litigation, the risk of contempt findings, the risk of being held to account for some of the media that might be generated is an acute one, and it's one that you might face as a lawyer or your client could face. So giving a client's advice in relation to levering the media whilst they might really be intent on doing so is quite complicated. And it's for that reason most lawyers would say, look, just keep your mouth shut and say no comment. But I think in this day and age that advice is probably overly simplistic and really needs some bearing on the type of case and sort of press that you're likely to get, particularly with high-profile cases where there's a great deal of media attention in any event.